mother and I really are under a lot of pressure at the moment.
We had a look at our accounts and...
They're taking you out of school.
We're not taking you out of school, we're transferring you.
You'll be new then. What's your name?
Connor Lawler.
Shut up! We have a black shoe policy here, Mr. Lawler.
They're brown, they're quite sensible.
They're not black.
Hello, welcome to the Damian and Devlin Show, and this is our review of Sing Street, the 2015 film directed by John Carney and starring Ferdia Walsh-Peelo, Lucy Boynton, Aidan Gillian, is that right? Aidan Gillian?
I think so.
And Jack Rayner. And this was a little independent movie that came out of nowhere from Ireland and actually started playing film festivals, and word of mouth started picking up. And it finally, people started going to see this movie, and it did pretty good internationally. In fact, internationally, it did better than domestically, but more and more people are slowly starting to find this out. I chose this movie. The reason I chose it is because I absolutely fell in love with this movie, and I feel that if we're going to do a review show, not only should we do big name movies, but we should do gems like this, and hopefully it'll make you go out and check it out, because I personally absolutely love this movie. Damian has not seen this movie until just a few hours ago. We just finished watching it, and what are your first initial take on Sing Street?
Yeah, I actually really enjoyed it. It was very charming. It was very, very well written. I liked the characters. I liked the script. I loved, and the most important thing, I loved the music. The music in this was actually phenomenal. There's one song in particular that I just absolutely love. And I'm probably going to go look it up after we're done here, but it was absolutely a gem. Like exactly as you said, it was a gem.
This was a wonderful movie because when I went to go see it, I didn't know much about this movie. The two things I knew about this was it was directed by John Carney, who he directed a movie called Once that went on to become a big Broadway play, and it's a beautiful movie. So I had faith that he wrote that and directed it, so I had some faith. Besides that, the only person I knew, Aidan Gillian, from a lot of stuff. And Jack Rayner, I actually saw him in a couple movies and thought he was lackluster in it. And I went in and I was pleasantly surprised. Now, a little background. In 1985, when this movie is taking place, I was actually in a little band, a high school band, and I sang lead and wrote songs, and we had a drummer and a keyboardist. So to say that I was not charmed by this movie because I related to it, like it was even the same year. We did it, I think, from 85 to 86. And, you know, we didn't write quite as good music as them, but we did write like 20 or so original songs. And they catch a lot of the feel in this. And that's one of the things I was so charmed about this movie. This isn't just a love story between a guy and a girl. This is a love story about a guy falling in love with music and learning about music. Because straightforward, before we get to our positives, it's about a boy who sees this girl he becomes obsessed with. She's older, she's kind of aloof, she's going to be a model, and he tells her, hey, we've got a band, do you want to be in our video? When she agrees to it, he realizes he has to put a band together and doesn't really know how to play a lot of instruments, just a little bit on the guitar, and puts something together, and the journey begins. And I will leave it at that. Your positives on Sing Street.
So first and foremost, I just have to say, before I watch this video, here's the DVD cover so that you can see. I was absolutely certain that this was Billy Joe Armstrong from Green Day.
He actually has a picture
in
that position,
he
doesn't
does. That's why I thought it was Billy Joe Armstrong.
And it kind of looks like really early Madonna next to him. It's like Madonna and Billy Joe Armstrong in. Now there's a movie I'd like to see.
It's actually one of my positives is the fact that, you know what, they nail the music aspect so very well, and they nail the genre as well as the era of music that they're set in. Now, of course, I was not born in the 80s. I was born after all of that, but I know so much about it. You, my mom, pretty much everybody from that era just can't stop talking about bands like Duran Duran or Aha and things like that. And they have a huge impact on the band in the movie itself. And you actually pointed this out to me when we were watching it, but I really did like this fact when I was aware of it. Their musical style changes based on the band that they're introduced to. So one moment you've got Duran Duran, then you've got The Cure, and so on and so forth.
Paul
Not
Notes,
only,
yeah, a little bit of everything.
yeah, and like the look of them changes, and then the sound of them changes. And you're absolutely right. I think it's more of a love story between the kid and music rather than the kid and the girl.
Yeah, the girl's a muse. She's the inspiration, but then he finds out that, hey, you can fall in love with music and different styles of music too.
I loved it, and you know what? I think they nailed it perfectly. I like the script a lot. It's very simple but very charming. It was very funny at times too. I'm not really sure if they were going for funny, but they definitely did if they were trying to do that. And I found myself laughing quite a bit throughout it. The characters are all likable, from the lead the lead character to the side characters that support him. And my favorite character from the movie overall is actually the main kid's big brother. And I think the relationship between him and his older brother is just beautiful. And I don't have a bigger brother, I don't have anything like that, but that's how I would want my relationship with a bigger brother to be. It's just so nurturing and supportive, and like we're gonna go do this, it's gonna change our lives forever, and the big brother's like, all right, let's go do it, I'm here to help you accomplish your goals. And that's awesome. That's just awesome. I really liked the soundtrack in this movie as well. Talking about Suck, the movie that we also reviewed about a band trying to make it, they had their own original songs in the movie, but they sucked. Whereas this band, they actually call themselves Sing Street, and I could see myself listening to a band like this. I liked a lot of the songs in it that they were making, and they're original, and it kind of makes me sad that it's not a real band. I want to see this band. I want to listen to this band grow and develop even more after going through this movie. So,
before you continue, remember when we reviewed American Satan?
Yeah.
And I told you that one thing I didn't like is how they introduce songs and then they just kind of throw them away.
Oh, absolutely,
this movie is a perfect example of how you set up a song, whereas like there's a scene that's beautiful where they're rehearsing, just two people, and then as the song goes you see them actually performing it with the rest of the band, and you see it building. This is exactly what I was talking about when a movie knows how to deliver its songs.
I would 100% agree, and now that I've seen Sing Street and how they do that, it takes you through the very beginning of the band where pretty much only one of them knows how to play an instrument, and then everybody develops their skills over time. And then you see the two main members of the band like constantly practicing and making music together. And to have it go from just being written on paper to being performed in front of a crowd, yes, I will 100% agree with you. That's how American Satan should have done it. And this is how it should be done when you have a movie like this that focuses around music as well as a band. I also really enjoyed the ambiguous ending because...
Without giving away the ending.
I'm not going to give away the ending because it's one of those endings where you have to think like, it's up to you what happens, basically. It's you, the viewer, that decides what happens. And I like that because it can go anywhere. I've already come up with what happens after the movie ends in my own head, and I like the ending that I've come up with. So I like that as well. I think it was the perfect way to wrap the movie up.
Okay. Director John Carney, as I said, he directed a movie called Once I Loved. I think he wrote the screenplay as well as this one. I think he has a great way of mixing music with not losing character. He develops the main characters in this very well, and sometimes he doesn't do it. He doesn't do it very Hollywood. He just builds them just through situations, and you can see them develop. Even little things when you see the lead actor, you can see him developing, not only just in his fashions, but his style, his personality starts growing, his confidence starts building, he starts believing in himself, and that's so inspirational. I think John Carney does that because he did the same thing with Once, but he did it with two people a man and a woman falling in love. Another movie I'd like to show you at some time because it's just magical. I love that he has a feel for the 80s. Sometimes 80s movies do it too much. As in they go over the top and neon and stuff.
Yep.
He knocks the 80s out of the park without going into like ridiculousness. Like he does not... They have things playing in the background, just little things, and I love that it's toned down, but every instance I could feel, this is the 80s, this is what we dressed like, this is incredible. I'll even give a shout out that they actually deal with, there's a lot of talk about gender fluidity now, and it's great that we have it out there, but we forget that the 80s actually brought androgyny out in the open. Men and women were, becoming the same, but we didn't have to announce it. We just did it. We put makeup on. We did, not me, but you know what I'm saying.
Oh, don't lie. You dressed up like Ziggy Stardust.
No, more like Boy George if I had my way.
There you go.
But anyhow, I love that they deal with that because this is something that happened in the 80s that a lot of people can relate to now. When they talk of, gender fluidity and stuff like that, and 80s is a great representation. It's like almost what happened to that? Because we kind of lost a couple decades. And now they're trying to bring it back. Maybe we should learn from the 80s where we just did it in your face. It was like, let's just do it. Who cares if people don't accept it?
If you just please don't bring the fashion back. That's all I ask.
Well, the fashion in this wasn't as
wasn't
harsh,
outrageous.
but I think it could be
outrageous.
because it does take place in Ireland.
I still can't get over the whole jean jacket, jean pants, jean
Yeah, but
underwear.
They didn't go to acid wash, so at least we didn't have to deal with acid wash, which I didn't like even when it was out. Other things, I love the music, absolutely phenomenal. I love when I watch a movie and I know I'm going to have a lot of the songs in my library. Like back in the day, in the 80s, if I saw a movie like this, I'd have run right to like Sam the Record Man or one of those HMVs, and I would have had the CD by now. Now it's just hard to find, especially an independent film like this. Great songs, songs like Up, Every Day I Try to Find You, or something like that. My favorite is Drive It Like You Stole It, which is one line that the brother says, and it turns into this awesome senior prom visionary, and it's just a great song. So many great songs. And if you don't like the original stuff, there's a lot of old school stuff in there in the background. It doesn't take you away from it, but they play some Cure, they play some Duran Duran, and it's nice because it's almost like you get one or the other. And that's the other positive I'll end with, is the thing that's wonderful is the relationship with the brother is because of the fact that whenever, like the brother tells him, yeah, that sucks. And then always figures out what he needs. Or even the brother starts, the younger brother starts figuring out what he needs. And the brother always knows what music to give him and says, homework. And then you see it in the style of music that they play. And you can see they're falling in love with the idea of music. I enjoy the whole cast in this movie. I think the lead, Ferdio, I'll say it again, Ferdia Walsh-Peelo, has got an innocence about him, but he also gets the confidence. You see it, he nails it. The girl, Lucy Boynton, she is so beautiful and very real. Like, this was a girl I went to high school with, in the 80s.
I've seen pictures of my mom in this time frame, and she looked exactly like this girl.
Yeah, and, but, it's funny, when I went into this, I said I saw Jack Reynor in a couple of movies, and I was never impressed by him, and you're right. The brother of the lead character is the standout performance, and that's saying they're all standouts, but he is phenomenal in this, and I was happy to see that he actually won the Irish equivalent of the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor. In fact, it's sad that the Oscars, the Golden Globes actually nominated this for like Best Musical, but the Oscars totally didn't even give it original song, nothing. And that is a blemish. That tells me the Oscars, something's not right, because this movie is incredible. All the critics loved it. The fact that they couldn't even give it a Best Song nomination, and the songs are written right for the thing. So Jack Rayner,
We're
awesome
not going to be invited
performance.
to the Oscars ever.
No. One day maybe. Negatives.
So there was one character, even though I liked the character, his accent was just so much. You had to say, "You want me to put the subtitles on?"
I did.
He's the little redhead Irish boy.
Yeah.
He's the manager of the band. He films their music videos as well, but I can't understand a word the kid said. So literally, I felt like I was missing important plot details. And like I said, that's just...
You didn't let me put the subtitles
It's
on.
fine. I wanted to be immersed.
Okay.
I wanted to feel like I was there in Dublin. But everybody else's Irish accent, no problem. I even got some of the slang and whatnot. Part of my background is Scottish, so not necessarily the same. In fact, we're not the same, but I can understand Scottish accents, even deep in the Highlands Scottish. But just the Irish, it's so weird and different, especially from this kid. So it's got to be a negative for me. Near the ending as well, I felt the movie had done a really great job of feeling real, except the ending where I could tell, okay, that's a green screen. And there's special effects. And I understand why they had to do that, but it just, again, it was a blemish. It took me away from it, essentially. So those are my only two negatives about this whole film, though. Very, very small, very, very avoidable. But if you are going into this movie and you're like me, where Irish, deep Irish gets you, maybe think about putting on the subtitles or at least having someone there as a translator.
Yeah, no, that's a great comment. That's a great comment, because sometimes I know a lot of people avoid British even films because sometimes the accents are so thick. But I'm never afraid to put the subtitles on, even if there's people talking fast and stuff. But that's a great thing. I do have one little negative of the film. Because this is such a love letter to music, I kind of wish I saw more of the relationship of the band.
I agree. Yes, okay.
We see a beautiful, I love that we deal with the romance, and I think the romance is important because, as I said, she's kind of the muse that gets him started into a greater love affair. But there's also another little love affair in there, and that's between him and the guy he writes songs with. And to be honest with you, I could have watched a whole documentary of these two just working on songs. They had a nice repertoire. Like the one kid would always be like, "Oh, we can't do that. We got to think of going to college and stuff." And then, he'd always be like, "Will girls be around?" And yes.
You'd see him, like, the one would be playing the guitar while the other reads the lyrics, and he'd stop playing the guitar and go, "That doesn't make sense. Why would you put that? Why?" And they challenge each other, and it helps make the song even more powerful.
And I would have loved to see a little bit more of that between those two, and maybe a little bit between the other kids, because it was getting clear that the other kids were learning their craft. And I almost would love to have seen just a movie about the bands. But I believe that the love story is important in this. It's not a throwaway love story. It actually sets up a lot, and so that's my only little negative, and that's a very little negative because it's such a great script that all I wanted was a little bit more of the love affair with the band, and they nail a good part of it.
They do, absolutely.
So your point value on this?
4.5. I'm giving it a 4.5.
That's amazing. I thought you would like it, but I didn't know how much you would like it. So I'm gleaming right now. I found one that he really liked.
Pulling a note out of your book, I sat there really uncomfortable for about 40 minutes of the end of the film because I really had to go to the washroom. And I said, you really found a good movie when you're willing to sacrifice your own personal comfort to see it to the end.
Yeah, I get that, though, because of the fact that sometimes you don't want to pause it because it kind of,
It was such a nice blend for the last 40 minutes that I was like, I don't want to ruin this feng shui we got going on. So 4.5 from me.
And, I will also agree with you. 4.5 on this one. I think it's a great film. I'm excited that we are reviewing this, and first I'm going to say that we probably won't get a lot of views, but I hope people take a chance on this, and then we see it builds, because more people need to hear about Sing Street. I talk about any chance I can get when I see a music lover, or somebody who was brought up in the 80s, or somebody who just likes retro. I'm like, have you seen Sing Street? Because this movie needs to be seen.
I would 100% agree with you. And you know who else needs to be seen? Us. So make sure you subscribe, comment, like, share us with your friends, and you as well. Get the word out. Spread us around because more people need to see us and see our reviews. Thank you so much for joining us. We truly enjoy having you with us every single week. Stay tuned because you never know where we'll end up next.
I actually love this band.
Do you really wanna hurt me? Do you really wanna make me cry? Do you really wanna hurt me? Do you really wanna make me cry?